The last human ship moved away from the space station like a dying star. Taimin watched from the big window in the council meeting room. The ship got smaller and smaller until it was just a tiny dot of light. Then it was gone. "Good," said Taimin. He turned to face the other aliens in the room. "The humans are finally gone. Now we can have peace in our galaxy." The other council members made happy sounds. Some clicked their claws, others buzzed with their wings. A few just nodded their big heads. They all felt the same way. The humans had been trouble for too long. Taimin was tall and blue with 4 arms. His people ruled the biggest part of the galaxy. They had been in charge for over 1,000 years. He liked things to stay the same. He did not like change. "The humans always ask too many questions," said another council member. This one looked like a giant bug with silver skin. "They wanted to know why we did things certain ways. They wanted to change everything." "Yes," agreed Taimin. "They made other species think strange thoughts. Some of our own people started asking questions too. That cannot happen." Down the hall, Bo-Rom was looking at her computer screen. She was in charge of keeping the galaxy safe. Her job was to watch for danger. Right now, she was watching the human ships leave. Something was wrong. The humans were supposed to go to the empty systems beyond the galaxy's edge. The council had picked those places because they were far away and had nothing good in them. No other aliens wanted to live there. But the human ships were not going to those places. Bo-Ram looked at the map on her screen. The human ships had split up. Some went north, some went south. Some went in directions that made no sense at all. They were going to places that were not even on the map. "Strange," she said to herself. Bo-Ram was shorter than most of her people. Her skin was green, and she had big yellow eyes that could see very well in the dark. Her people were good at finding things that were hidden. She tried to follow the human ships with her sensors. But one by one, they turned off their signals. It was like they just disappeared into the empty space between stars. This was not normal. When people moved to new homes, they kept their signals on. That way, their friends could find them. That way, ships bringing food and supplies could find them too. But the humans had turned everything off. They did not want to be found. Back in the meeting room, an old alien was talking. His name was Hyun-Sik. He kept records of everything that happened in the galaxy. "The humans lived with us for only 200 years, said Hyun-Sik. "But in that time, they changed everything. They made new machines. They found new ways to travel between stars. They even made some of our people start thinking like them." "That is exactly the problem," said Taimin. "We had a good system. Everything worked well. Then the humans came and wanted to make it all different." Another council member spoke up. This one was round and purple with lots of tentacles. "My people started asking why they had to work in the mines all their lives. They said the humans told them they could do other jobs too. This caused problems. The humans said there were no rules about who could do what job," added another member. "They said anyone could learn anything if they tried hard enough. This is a dangerous idea." All the council members agreed. The galaxy worked because everyone knew their place. Some aliens were good at fighting, some were good at building things, some were good at growing food. Everyone did what their people had always done. It kept things peaceful. But the humans did not believe in staying in one place. They learned new things all the time. They taught other aliens to learn new things too. This made some species want to change their old ways. The humans are gone now, said Taimin. "We gave them empty space to live in. They should be happy, and we can go back to the old ways." But Bo-Rom was still worried. She had been watching the humans for many years. She knew they were smart. Very smart, maybe too smart. She thought about the last human diplomat, Ji-Woo. Ji-Woo had been polite during all the meetings about humans leaving. She never got angry, even when some council members said mean things about her people. When Ji-Woo left her office for the last time, she had forgotten something. She left her datapad on the desk. Bo-Ram had found it later. The datapad looked normal. It had lists of human families and which ships they were on. It had maps of where they were supposed to go. It had messages saying goodbye to alien friends. But Bo-Ram was good at finding hidden things. She looked deeper into the datapad. Hidden in the computer files, she found something else. There was a secret message. It said, Thank you for teaching us that we were never meant to be pets. Boram did not understand what this meant. Humans were not pets. They were people, just like all the other species in the galaxy. Why would Jiwoo write something like that? There was more in the hidden files. There were real maps showing where the human ships were really going. Not to the empty systems the Council had picked, to places that were not even on the official galaxy maps. And there were numbers. Lots of numbers. They looked like coordinates for star systems. But when Boram checked, these coordinates pointed to places where no one lived. Places where there was nothing but dead stars and floating rocks. Why would humans want to go to dead places? Boram decided to keep this information to herself for now. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe the humans really were just going away to live quietly in empty space. But she had a bad feeling about it. In another part of the space station, Jiwoo was getting ready to board the very last human ship. She was young, but very smart. She had been the voice of all humans during the long talks with the Council. Jiwoo was not angry about leaving. She was not sad either. She was thinking about the future. For 200 years, humans had lived in the galaxy under Council rules. They had to ask permission for almost everything. They could only live in certain places. They could only do certain jobs. They could only build certain kinds of machines. At first, humans had been happy just to be part of the galactic community. Earth was a small planet, and there were so many amazing alien civilizations to learn from. But as time went on, humans started to see problems. The galaxy was run by old species who did not like change. They wanted everything to stay exactly the same forever. Young species, like humans, were not really welcome as equals. They were more like children who needed to be watched and controlled. We tried to fit in, Jiwoo said to herself as she walked to her ship. We tried to follow their rules. But they will never see us as equals. They want us to stay small and quiet forever. The Council thought they were getting rid of a problem by sending humans away. They thought humans would go to the empty systems and slowly disappear. Maybe in a few hundred years, everyone would forget humans had ever existed. But the Council did not understand humans very well. Humans did not give up easily. When someone told them they could not do something, they found a way to do it anyway. When someone tried to keep them in a small box, they built a bigger box. And now they were free. Free to go anywhere they wanted. Free to build anything they could imagine. Free to grow as big and strong as they could become. Jiwoo smiled as she walked onto her ship. The Council thought they had won. They thought they had solved their human problem. They had no idea what was really about to happen. The ship's engines started with a low hum. Jiwoo felt the ship move away from the station. Through the window, she could see the Council space, station getting smaller. She was not looking back with sadness. She was looking back to remember this moment. The moment when humans stopped being anyone's pets and started being something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. The ship jumped into hyperspace, and the Council station disappeared. Ahead lay empty space, dead stars, and infinite possibilities. Behind them, the Council celebrated their victory, not knowing they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. 50 years had passed since the humans left. Taimin was much older now, but still in charge of the Council. His blue skin had turned gray, and he moved more slowly, but he was happy with how things had turned out. The galaxy was peaceful. Trade. Ships moved along the same routes they had used for hundreds of years. Each alien species did the jobs they had always done. No one asked difficult questions anymore. "This is how things should be," Taimin told his assistant as they walked through the Council building. "Everything in its proper place." Hyun-sik was now the chief historian for the Council. His job was to write down everything important that happened. He was working on a big book about the human exile. The book would tell future aliens how the Council had solved a dangerous problem. It would explain why humans had to leave and how the galaxy became better without them. But as Hyun-sik studied the old records, he found some things that worried him. "The humans went to more places than we thought," he told his helper, a young alien named So-young. She had big eyes and could see patterns in numbers very well. "How many places?" asked So-young. "We thought they went to maybe 50 star systems," said Hyun-sik. "But I found records of human signals from 847 different places." So-young's eyes got bigger. "That is many more than 50. Yes. And look at this map. Hyun-sik showed her a picture of the galaxy with dots marking where humans had gone. Do you see a pattern? So-young looked at the map for a long time. The dots seemed random at first, but then she started to see something. The dots are near old hyperspace nodes, she said. The broken ones that do not work anymore. Exactly, said Hyun-sik. Why would humans want to live near broken hyperspace? Nodes? There is nothing there. No planets to live on. No resources to mine. Just empty space and dead machines. Hyperspace nodes were special places where ships could jump from one star system to another very quickly. Without them, it would take hundreds of years to travel between stars. Most of the old nodes had stopped working long ago. No one knew why. The ancient aliens who built them had disappeared before any current species learned how to travel in space. Maybe the humans just picked those places because no one else wanted them, suggested So-young. Maybe, said Hyun-sik, but he did not sound sure. So-young worked in the Deep Space Monitoring Division. Her job was to watch for dangerous things. In empty space. Asteroids that might hit planets. Dead stars that might explode. Strange energy readings that might mean trouble. Lately, she had been seeing a lot of strange energy readings. They came from the dark areas between star systems. Places where humans had gone 50 years ago. The energy was very weak, so weak that most sensors could not detect it. But So-young had very good equipment and very good eyes. The energy pulses like a heartbeat, she told her supervisor. It starts, then stops, then starts again. Always the same timing. Her supervisor was an old alien who did not like surprises. It is probably just cosmic radiation, he said. Space is full of energy. Most of it means nothing. But this energy is different, insisted So-young. It has a pattern. Natural energy does not make patterns. Stop worrying about it, said her supervisor. The humans are gone. They are not our problem anymore. But So-young kept watching. She recorded every energy pulse. She mapped where they came from. Slowly, she began to see that the energy readings were connected. It was like the humans had built some kind of invisible network in space. The first real proof that something strange was happening came from an exploration ship. Captain Dae-hyun was leading a mission to map old star systems that no one had visited in hundreds of years. His job was to look for resources that the council might want to use. One of the systems on his list was completely dead. It had a collapsed star and nothing else. No planets, no asteroids, no reason for anyone to go there. But when his ship arrived, Dae-hyun found something impossible. There was a space station orbiting the dead star. That should not be there, said his first officer. The station was huge, bigger than anything the council had ever built. It was made of metal that looked human, but the design was far more advanced than anything humans had when they left 50 years ago. Try to contact them, ordered Dae-hyun. They sent radio signals to the station. At first there was no answer. Then a voice came back, speaking in the human language. This is Gateway Station 7. State your business. This is Captain Dae-hyun of the Council Exploration Service, he replied. We are mapping this system. We did not know anyone lived here. There was a long pause. Then the voice said, You may dock at Port 3. Someone will meet you. Dae-hyun was excited. These were the first humans anyone had seen in 50 years. The council would want to know what they were doing out here. But when his ship docked at the station, no one was there to meet them. The hallways were empty. The lights were on, and the air was good to breathe. But there were no people anywhere. Hello? Called Dae-hyun. His voice echoed in the empty corridors. They walked through the station for hours. They found living areas, workrooms, and laboratories. Everything looked new and well-maintained. But there were no humans anywhere. Finally, they found a control room with screens showing information about the station. One screen was playing a message over and over. The message was from a human woman. She looked young and confident. Behind her, Dae-hyun could see other humans working at computers and machines. This is Commander Min-ji of the Human Deep Space Development Project, said the woman in the message. If you are seeing this recording, it means you have found one of our gateway stations. Gateway stations? Whispered Dae-hyun's first officer. The message continued. Phase 1 of our expansion is now complete. We have established the basic infrastructure for our new civilization. Phase 2 will begin when we are ready. The message paused. Then the woman smiled. We want to thank the Council for giving us the opportunity to start fresh. You taught us that we needed to stop asking for permission and start building our own future. The message ended. The screen went dark. Dae-hyun and his crew searched the rest of the station, but they found no more clues about where the humans had gone or when they might come back. When they returned to Council space, Dae-hyun reported what he had found. The news caused a lot of excitement and worry. How did they build such an advanced station? Asked Taemin. 50 years ago, they barely had the technology to travel between stars. Maybe they found something in those dead systems, suggested Bo-Ram. She was still in charge of security, though she was older now too. Maybe there were resources we did not know about. Or maybe they found something else, said So-young. She had been invited to the meeting because of her energy readings. Maybe they found old technology? What kind of old technology? Asked Taemin. The kind that built the hyperspace nodes, said So-young. The kind that the ancient aliens used before they disappeared. The room got very quiet. Everyone knew stories about the ancient aliens. They had ruled the galaxy millions of years ago. They had technology that seemed like magic. Then one day, they just vanished. Some people said they had destroyed themselves in a war. Others said they had left the galaxy to explore other places. No one knew for sure. But if the humans had found ancient alien technology... That is impossible, said Taemin. If such technology still existed, we would have found it by now. We have been exploring the galaxy for thousands of years. Maybe we were not looking in the right places, said Bo-Ram. Maybe we ignored the dead systems because we thought there was nothing valuable there. The humans did not ignore them, added So-young. They went straight to those systems, almost like they knew what they would find there. Taemin did not like where this conversation was going. The humans were supposed to be gone. They were supposed to be living quietly in empty space, slowly fading away until everyone forgot about them. They were not supposed to be building advanced space stations and finding ancient technology. Send more exploration ships, ordered Taemin. Find all the human settlements. I want to know exactly what they are doing out there. But when the exploration ships reached the coordinates So-young had mapped, they found something that chilled everyone to the bone. The energy readings were stronger now, much stronger, and they were coming from hundreds of different locations. The humans had not just found ancient technology. They had learned how to use it. And whatever they were building in the dark between the stars, it was almost ready. Back on Gateway Station 7, Commander Min-ji watched the Council exploration ship leave through the station's sensors. She was not really young anymore. 50 years of hard work had aged her, but her eyes still held the same confidence. Phase 2 will begin soon, she said to her second-in-command. Are all the other stations ready? 847. Stations report ready, came the reply. The network is stable and growing stronger every day. Min-ji nodded. Good. It is almost time to show the Council what humans can really do when no one is watching over their shoulders. She looked out at the dead star that their station orbited. It was not really dead anymore. The humans had learned how to tap into its energy. They had learned how to use that energy to power things the Council could never imagine. Soon, very soon, the Council would learn that exiling the humans had been the biggest mistake in galactic history, but by then it would be too late to fee. Min-ho had been the Council's chief technology officer for 20 years. He thought he understood how technology worked in the galaxy. Everything followed rules that had been the same for thousands of years. Then the reports started coming in. Sir, said his assistant, running into his office. You need to see this right away. Min-ho looked at the datapad his assistant handed him. The numbers on the screen made no sense. 17 hyperspace nodes activated in the last day, he asked. That is impossible. Those nodes have been dead for millions of years. That is what our sensors say, replied his assistant, and they are all sending out signals now. Hyperspace nodes were like doorways between different parts of the galaxy. Ships used them to travel vast distances in just a few hours instead of hundreds of years. But most of the old nodes had stopped working long ago. The Council still used some nodes that were built by more recent civilizations. But the ancient nodes were much more powerful. No one knew how to turn them back on. Until now. "Show me the locations," said Minho. His assistant brought up a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked where the old nodes had activated. The dots formed a pattern that made Minho's stomach feel sick. Every single activated node was in a system where humans had gone 50 years ago. "Get me a direct line to the council chambers," ordered Minho. "They need to know about this immediately." But before he could make the call, more reports came in. Node activations in 12 more systems, then 8 more, then 15. It was like a wave spreading across the galaxy. Ancient technology that had been dead for millions of years was coming back to life, and the humans seemed to be controlling it all. Yunji was a xenobiologist. She studied alien life forms and how they evolved. But lately, she had been studying something else: human behavior. The council had asked her to figure out why humans had spread to so many different star systems. What were they looking for? What was their plan? Yunji had spent months studying the pattern of human settlements. At first, it looked random. Humans had gone to dead systems, empty systems, and systems with nothing but floating rocks. But then she started looking at it differently. They were not looking for good places to live, she told the council. They were looking for specific things. "What kind of things?" asked Taimin. "Hyperspace anomalies, gravitational distortions, places where space itself was broken." Yunji showed them her research. Every human settlement was near some kind of space phenomenon that other aliens had ignored. Dead hyperspace nodes, collapsed wormholes, stars that had exploded in strange ways. "We always avoided these places because they seemed dangerous," explained Yunji. "But the humans went straight to them. It is like they knew something we did not." "What could they know that we do not?" asked another council member. "Maybe they found records from the ancient aliens," suggested Yunji. "Maybe they learned something about how hyperspace really works." As if to prove her point, Minho's voice came over the communication system. "Council members, please report to the main briefing room immediately. We have a situation." When they arrived, Minho showed them what was happening across the galaxy. The ancient hyperspace nodes were activating one by one. Each activation created a stable pathway to regions far beyond council-mapped space. "How is this possible?" asked Taemin. "We do not know," admitted Minho. "Our best scientists have studied these nodes for hundreds of years. We never found a way to turn them on." "But the humans found a way in just 50 years?" asked Boram. "It appears so. And there is more." Minho showed them new sensor readings from the activated nodes. Energy was flowing through them at levels that dwarfed anything the Council had ever seen. It was like the humans had tapped into the galaxy's fundamental power source. "We need to investigate," said Taemin. "Send ships to these activated nodes. Find out what the humans are doing." But when Council ships approached the activated nodes, they found something that changed everything. The nodes were not just turned on. They had been completely rebuilt. Captain Sung-min led the first investigation team. His ship approached an activated node in what used to be an empty system. What he found there made him question everything he thought he knew about technology. The old hyperspace node had been a simple ring of metal about a kilometer wide, but now it was part of a massive structure that stretched for hundreds of kilometers in all directions. "It looks like a city," said his navigator. "A city in space." The structure was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It had smooth curves and organic shapes that seemed to grow naturally from the old node. Energy flowed through it like blood through veins. "Try to make contact," ordered Sung-min. A voice answered immediately. It spoke in the common galactic language, but with a human accent. "This is Node Control Station 77 Alpha. State your purpose." "This is Captain Sung-min of the Council Defense Force. We are investigating unusual energy readings in this system." There was a pause. Then the voice said, "You are welcome to observe from a safe distance. Do not approach within 1,000 kilometers of the node structure." "We would like to speak with whoever is in charge," said Sung-min. "That would be Director Jae-hyun. She is currently in conference with other directors across the network. You may wait if you wish." "Network?" asked Sung-min. "The Human Expanse Hyperspace Network, currently consisting of 847 operational nodes, with more coming online daily." Sung-min felt his blood turn cold. 847 nodes. The Council's entire transportation system used only 32 nodes, and those were much smaller and less powerful. How long has this network been operational? He asked. Primary construction began 52 years ago, replied the voice. The network achieved initial connectivity 47 years ago. Full operational status was reached 6 months ago. The timeline made Sungmin's head spin. The humans had started building this network almost immediately after they left Council space. While the Council thought they were living quietly in exile, they had been constructing the most advanced transportation system the galaxy had ever seen. Director Jae-hyun is available now, said the voice. Transferring communication. A new voice came through the speakers. It was clearly human female and carried the confidence of someone used to being in charge. Captain Sungmin, this is Director Jae-hyun. How can we help you? We did not know humans had built anything like this, stammered Sungmin. The Council never asked, replied Jae-hyun. You gave us these systems and told us to make new lives here. So we did. But this technology, how did you learn to build such things? The same way humans learn everything, said Jae-hyun. We studied, we experimented, we made mistakes and learned from them. We did not have anyone telling us we could not do it. So we did it. Sungmin looked at the massive structure through his ship's windows. It pulsed with energy that made his sensors struggle to keep up. This was technology beyond anything the Council possessed. What are your intentions? He asked. What do you plan to do with this network? We plan to use it, said Jae-hyun simply. We have colonies in 17 different galaxies now. The network lets us stay connected across distances that would take normal ships millions of years to cross. 17 galaxies? Sungmin's voice cracked. You have spread to other galaxies? Of course. Did you think we would stay trapped in one small corner of space forever? Before Sungmin could respond, alarms started sounding on his ship. Captain, called his science officer. I am detecting massive energy fluctuations from the node. Something big is coming through. Through the hyperspace gateway came a ship unlike anything Sungmin had ever seen. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the largest Council vessel. Its hull seemed to be made of the same flowing organic material as the node structure. That is the exploration ship New Horizon, said Jae-hyun, returning from a survey mission in the Andromeda Galaxy. Andromeda? Whispered Sungmin. That galaxy was so far away that Council scientists could barely see it with their best telescopes. We found some very interesting things there, continued Jae-hyun, including evidence of the civilization that originally built these hyperspace nodes. They left quite a lot of information for anyone smart enough to find it. Sungmin realized that everything the Council thought they knew about the galaxy was wrong. While they had been maintaining old technology and old ways of thinking, the humans had been learning secrets that were millions of years old. We should go, said his navigator quietly. We are way out of our depth here. Sungmin agreed. Director, Jae-hyun, we will report what we have seen to the Council. Please do, replied Jae-hyun. And Captain, you might want to tell them that this is just the beginning. We have learned so much in the last 50 years. We are eager to share our knowledge with any species interested in growing beyond their current limitations. As Sungmin's ship moved away from the node, he watched more human ships arriving and departing. They moved with confidence and purpose that made Council vessels look ancient and clumsy. The humans had not just survived their exile. They had used it to become something far more powerful than they had ever been while living under Council rule, and now they were offering to share their knowledge. Sungmin wondered if the Council would be wise enough to accept the offer or proud enough to reject it. He had a terrible feeling he already knew the A. The Council meeting room had never been so full of angry voices. For 3 days, representatives from every major species had been arguing about what to do about the humans. Tai-min sat at the head of the table, looking older and more tired than ever. The reports from Captain Sungmin had shaken everyone. Nobody had expected the humans to become so powerful so quickly. 847 hyperspace nodes, said the representative from the mining guild. That is more than 20 times what we have in our entire network. And they are reaching other galaxies, added the Trade Federation spokesman. If they controlled travel between galaxies, they could control all commerce in the universe. They said they want to share their technology, said one of the younger council members. Maybe we should listen to them. The room erupted in angry sounds. Clicks, buzzes, roars, and hisses filled the air. Share, shouted the representative from the military alliance. They built this network in secret. They hid it from us for 50 years. This is not sharing. This is conquest. Taemin raised his hands for silence. The question is simple, he said. Do we accept that humans are now the most powerful species in the galaxy? Or do we do something about it? What can we do? Asked Bo Ram. Their technology is far beyond ours. If we fight them, we will lose. There is another option, said Wan Shik, the council's military commander. He was a big alien with thick armor and many weapons. We have something the humans do not know about. He activated a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed an ancient structure floating in space near the galaxy's core. The precursor station? Whispered Hyun Sik. I thought that was just a legend. It is real, said Wan Shik. My people have been guarding it for thousands of years. We never told the council because we could never figure out how to use it. The precursor station was a relic from the ancient aliens who had ruled the galaxy millions of years ago. According to legend, it contained weapons so powerful they could destroy entire star systems. What kind of weapons? Asked Taemin. We are not sure, admitted Wan Shik. But we have found references to something called the Stellar Isolation Protocol. It seems to be designed to cut off hyperspace travel across large areas. Cut off hyperspace travel? Yun-ji looked concerned. That would trap every species in their home systems. Trade would stop. Communication would stop. Entire civilizations would be isolated. Only temporarily, said Wan Shik. The effect should wear off after a few years. By then, the human network would be destroyed and we could rebuild our own systems. Should wear off? Asked Bo-Ram. You do not know for sure? The precursor technology is difficult to understand, Wan Shik admitted. But our scientists believe they have figured out how to activate it. This is madness, said In-Su, the council's chief scientist. He was an old alien who had studied ancient technology for most of his life. We barely understand how our own hyperspace nodes work. The precursor technology is thousands of times more complex. Do you have a better idea? Asked Taemin. In-Su was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Yes. We negotiate with the humans. We find a way to work together. Work together? Taemin's voice was full of disgust. They are the ones who left. They are the ones who built secret weapons. They are the ones threatening our way of life. They are offering to share their technology, In-Su pointed out. On their terms, said Wan Shik. They want us to become junior partners in their empire. They want us to give up our independence. What independence? Asked Bo Ram. If they can travel between galaxies, and we cannot even match their hyperspace network, we are already dependent on them. The argument continued for hours. Some council members wanted to try diplomacy. Others wanted to prepare for war. But more and more were starting to listen to Wan Shik's plan. Think about it, Wan Shik said during a break in the arguing. The humans are strong because of their hyperspace network. Take that away, and they are just another species scattered across empty space. What about our own hyperspace network? Asked a Trade Federation representative. Would the weapon affect us too? Our nodes are built differently, said Wan Shik. They should be protected. Should be. Bo-Ram did not like the sound of that. Nothing is certain when dealing with precursor technology, Wan Shik admitted. But the risk is worth it. If we do nothing, the humans will eventually control the entire galaxy. Taemin listened to all the arguments. But in his heart, he had already made his decision. He had spent his whole life maintaining the old order. He would not let a species of upstart humans destroy everything his people had built. We will vote, he announced. All in favor of activating the Stellar Isolation Protocol? Hands, claws, tentacles, and other appendages rose around the table. It was not unanimous, but it was a clear majority. All opposed? Fewer appendages rose. The motion passes, said Taemin. Wan Shik, how long will it take to prepare the weapon? The station is already charged, replied Wan Shik. We just need to input the targeting coordinates and activate the system. What coordinates? Asked Yunji. All known human settlements and hyperspace nodes, said Wan Shik. The weapon will create a hyperspace disruption field that spreads outward from each target. Within hours, the entire human network will be cut off from normal space. And if something goes wrong? Asked In-Su. Then we deal with the consequences, said Taemin. But doing nothing is not an option. The meeting ended with plans to activate the weapon within the next day. Most council members left feeling relieved that they were finally taking action, but some left with a feeling of dread. In-Su went straight to his laboratory. He had been studying precursor technology longer than anyone else on the council. He knew things that Wan Shik's military scientists did not. Pull up everything we have on the Stellar Isolation Protocol, he told his computer. The files that appeared on his screen made his worst fears come true. The weapon was not designed to target specific species or locations. It was designed to collapse hyperspace connections across entire galactic regions. It is not a surgical strike, he said to himself. It is a reset button. According to the ancient records, the precursors had used the weapon only once, during their final civil war. It had ended the war by making interstellar travel impossible for hundreds of years. By the time hyperspace had stabilized again, the precursor civilization was gone. They destroyed themselves to prevent one side from winning, In-Su realized. And now we are about to do the same thing. He tried to call Taemin, but the Supreme Chancellor was not taking calls. He tried to reach Wan Shik, but the military commander was already on his way to the precursor station. In-Su thought about going public with his concerns, but who would believe him? The council had made its decision. The weapon would be activated, whether he agreed or not. All he could do was hope that his understanding of the ancient technology was wrong. Deep in space, Wan Shik's ship approached the precursor station. The ancient structure was enormous, larger than some moons. It had been floating here since before any current species had learned to build spaceships. Are you sure about this? Asked his second-in-command as they docked with the station. No, Wan Shik admitted. But the humans have forced our hand. We cannot let them control the galaxy. Inside the station, ancient machines hummed with power that had been building for millions of years. The corridors were filled with symbols and writings that no living being could read. But at the center of the station was a simple control room with one clear function: a large crystal surrounded by targeting computers. The weapon is ready, reported the technical team that had been studying the station. We just need to input the coordinates and touch the activation crystal. Wan Shik looked at the list of coordinates. Every human settlement, every human hyperspace, node, 847 targets across dozens of galactic regions. Activating now, he said, and placed his hand on the crystal. The station responded immediately. Energy flowed through systems that had been waiting eons for this moment. Across the galaxy, invisible waves began spreading outward from every human installation, but the waves did not stop at human territory. In-Su's worst fears were about to come true. The Stellar Isolation Protocol was working exactly as the precursors had designed it, not as a precise weapon, but as a reset button for the entire galaxy. And once activated, there was no way to turn it off. The cascade had begun. Within hours, every hyperspace connection in the galaxy would collapse. The Council had just committed the same mistake that destroyed the precursors millions of years ago, but unlike the precursors, they had no idea what they had done. Wan Shik watched the energy readings climb on the ancient displays. Phase 1 complete, he announced. The human network should be offline within 6 hours. He had no way of knowing that the human network was the only thing in the galaxy designed to survive what was coming. While every other species would find themselves trapped in isolated star systems, the humans would emerge stronger than ever. The Council had not just pressed the wrong switch. They had handed the galaxy to the very people they were trying to stop. The first sign that something was wrong came from the trade routes. Dae-Sung worked in the Council's Emergency Response Center. His job was to coordinate help when disasters happened. Usually this meant sending rescue ships to planets hit by asteroids or helping evacuate systems where stars were about to explode. He had never dealt with anything like this. "Sir, we are getting reports from all across the galaxy," said his assistant, her voice shaking. "Hyperspace nodes are going offline everywhere." "How many nodes?" asked Dae-Sung. "All of them. Every single hyperspace node that is not controlled by humans." Daesung felt his stomach drop. That cannot be right. Run the scan again. But the second scan showed the same results. And the third. Across the galaxy, the transportation network that connected thousands of civilizations was collapsing. What about our emergency channels? Asked Daesung. Can we contact the outer colonies? His assistant tried for several minutes, then shook her head. Nothing. It is like they just disappeared. In the council chambers, panic was setting in. This was not supposed to happen, Taemin said over and over. Wanshik said only the human nodes would be affected. Wanshik is not answering our calls, reported Boram. His ship was near the precursor station when this started. We lost contact with him 4 hours ago. What about the station itself? Asked someone. Also gone, said Boram. Whatever that weapon did, it seems to have destroyed the station too. Hyunsik was frantically searching through the ancient records on his computer. I found something, he called out. A reference to what they call a cascade failure. What does that mean? Asked Taemin. According to this, the stellar isolation protocol was never meant to target specific areas. It was designed to reset hyperspace connections across entire galactic regions. The room went silent. Reset? Whispered Taemin. It collapses all hyperspace nodes in a target area, then spreads to connected nodes, then to nodes connected to those nodes, and so on. It keeps spreading until it runs out of connections to follow. How far can it spread? Asked Boram. Hyunsik looked at his screen with growing horror. According to this, there is no limit. It will keep going until every hyperspace node in the galaxy is destroyed. Even ours? Asked Taemin. Especially ours. Our nodes are all connected to each other. The cascade will follow our own network and destroy it from the inside. As if to prove his point, alarms started sounding throughout the council building. The hyperspace node in this system just went offline, reported the emergency coordinator. We are cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Taemin sank into his chair. In trying to stop the humans, the council had destroyed their own civilization, but the worst news was yet to come. So-Young had been monitoring the energy readings from human space throughout the crisis. What she found made no sense at all. The human nodes are not just surviving, she told Yoonji. They are getting stronger. What do you mean stronger? Asked Yoonji. Look at these readings. So-Young showed her the data. As our nodes collapse, the energy that was powering them is being absorbed by the human network. That is impossible, said Yoonji. Energy cannot just jump from one hyperspace node to another. It can if the nodes are designed to work together, said So-Young. I think the humans built their network to do exactly this. You think they knew this would happen? I think they planned for it, said So-Young. Their network is not just transportation. It is a safety net. When other hyperspace systems collapse, theirs gets stronger. The implications were staggering. While every other species in the galaxy found themselves trapped in isolated star systems, the humans would have access to an even more powerful transportation network than before. The confirmation came when a message appeared on every working communication system in the galaxy. It was from Jae-hyun. People of the galaxy, she said, speaking in the common language that all species understood. Your leaders have made a terrible mistake. They have activated an ancient weapon that has destroyed the hyperspace infrastructure your civilizations depend on. The message showed images of collapsed hyperspace nodes across dozens of star systems, ships stranded between stars, colonies that could no longer contact their home worlds. We want you to know that this was not our doing, continued Jae-hyun. The human expanse had no part in this decision. We warned your leaders that their actions would have consequences, but they chose not to listen. However, we are prepared to help. The image changed to show the human hyperspace network. It was not just intact, it was growing. New nodes were coming online, even as the message played. Our network has stabilizers that protect it from cascade failures, explained Jae-hyun. We have used this technology to save some of your nodes as well, but we cannot save them all. Any species that wishes to reconnect with the rest of the galaxy may contact us. We will provide transportation and communication services. In return, we ask only that you join us in building a better future for all intelligent life. The message ended with coordinates for human stations that were accepting refugees and diplomatic missions. In the council chambers, the reaction was immediate. "This is extortion," shouted one representative. "They are using our crisis to force us to accept their terms." "What choice do we have?" asked another. "Without hyperspace travel, our colonies will starve. Our economies will collapse." "The humans caused this," insisted Taemin. "If they had not built their network, we would never have felt threatened enough to use the weapon." "The humans did not activate the weapon," Boram pointed out. "We did that ourselves." "Because they forced us to." But even as Taemin argued, reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Species after species was accepting the human offer of help. They had no choice. The alternative was slow death by isolation. In his laboratory, In-Su made one final discovery that explained everything. "The cascade failure is not random," he told anyone who would listen. "It follows a specific pattern, and that pattern matches something I found in the deepest precursor archives." "What did you find?" asked Yunji, who had come to see him. "A history lesson," said In-Su. "The precursors were not the first galactic civilization. They were just the most recent before us." He showed her ancient star maps that revealed the truth. Galaxy-spanning civilizations had risen and fallen many times throughout cosmic history. Each time, an older civilization would try to stop a younger one from growing too powerful. Each time, they would activate the Stellar Isolation Protocol, and each time the weapon would destroy the old civilization and leave the young one in control, said In-Su. "You mean this has happened before?" "Many times. The galaxy produces young civilizations that eventually challenge the older ones. The old civilizations panic and use the reset weapon. The weapon destroys them and leaves the young civilization to start over." "So the humans did not plan this specific disaster," said In-Su, "but they prepared for it. They knew that any sufficiently advanced young species would eventually face this choice from the older species. They built their network to survive it, and now they control the galaxy. Now they have the chance to build a better system," corrected In-Su. "One that does not depend on keeping younger species under control." 6 months after the Cascade failure, the new reality had become clear. The Council still existed, but only as a collection of isolated worlds. Some Council species had joined the human cooperative. Others remained stubbornly independent in their single star systems. Taemin was no longer Supreme Chancellor. His own people had removed him from power when they learned the full extent of the disaster he had caused. The humans, meanwhile, had established what they called the Galactic Cooperative. Unlike the old Council, membership was voluntary. Species could join when they were ready, contribute what they could, and receive help when they needed it. It was not perfect. There were still conflicts and disagreements, but it was growing, and it was based on cooperation rather than control. Jae-hyun stood in the observation deck of New Geneva Station, the cooperative's new capital. Through the massive windows, she could see ships from dozens of species coming and going. "The cascade is finally stopping," reported her aide. "The last of the old hyperspace nodes collapsed yesterday." "How many species have joined us?" asked Jae-hyun. 412. More are requesting membership every day. And the Council. Holdouts? 67 species are still trying to maintain independence, but their isolation is becoming harder to sustain. We expect most of them to join within the next few years. Jae-hyun nodded. She felt no satisfaction in the Council's downfall. Too many people had suffered during the transition. Too many had died when supply lines were cut and colonies were stranded. But from that tragedy, something better was being born. "Ma'am," said her aide, "we are receiving a message from the Taemin's homeworld. They are requesting formal talks about joining the cooperative." "Set up the meeting," said Jae-hyun. "It is time to start healing the wounds." As she watched another ship dock at the station, Jae-hyun thought about the long journey that had brought them here. 50 years ago, humans had been exiled as a dangerous influence on galactic civilization. Now they were the ones helping that civilization rebuild itself. The galaxy was learning to grow up. And sometimes growing up meant learning that your parents did not have all the answers after all. 5 years had passed since the Great Collapse. The galaxy looked very different now. Jae-hyun walked through the corridors of New Geneva Station, watching the daily miracle of different species working together. A tall blue hegemony engineer discussed power systems with a small green Terran scientist. 3 members of the mining guild shared lunch with 2 human diplomats. It had not been easy. Many species had refused to trust humans at first. They remembered being told that humans were dangerous and disruptive. Some still believed the Cascade failure was part of a human plot to take over the galaxy. But hunger and isolation had a way of changing minds. "Ambassador Jae-hyun," called a familiar voice. She turned to see Yoon-ji approaching. The former council xenobiologist now worked as a liaison between the cooperative and the remaining independent species. "Any news from the holdout worlds?" asked Jae-hyun. "3 more systems requested membership this week," reported Yoon-ji. "The warrior clans are still resisting, but their isolation is making it harder for them to maintain their fleets." "And Taemin's people?" "The Hegemony Council voted last month to join the cooperative. Taemin himself has requested a meeting with you." Jae-hyun was surprised. "He wants to meet with me personally?" "He says he has something important to share. Something about the precursors." That afternoon, Jae-hyun found herself sitting across from the alien who had once been the most powerful leader in the galaxy. Taemin looked much older now. His blue skin had faded to pale gray, and he moved slowly like someone carrying a great weight. "Thank you for seeing me," he said quietly. "I know I have no right to ask for your time." "We all make mistakes," said Jae-hyun. "The question is what we learn from them." Taemin managed a sad smile. "That is very generous of you, but I did not come here to ask for forgiveness. I came to give you a warning." He placed a data crystal on the table between them. "After the Cascade failure, my people found something in the ruins of the precursor station, records that Won-shik never saw." "What kind of records?" "A complete history of the galactic cycles," said Taemin. "Not just the last few civilizations, but dozens of them going back millions of years." Jae-hyun picked up the crystal. "What did you learn?" "That this has all happened before. Many times. A young species rises to challenge the old order. The old order panics and activates the reset weapon. The young species takes control and builds a new civilization." "We knew that much already," said Jae-hyun. "But did you know what happens next?" asked Taemin. "Every young species that takes control eventually becomes old and set in their ways. They start to fear new ideas. They start to suppress younger species that challenge them." Jae-hyun felt a chill. "And then?" "And then those younger species eventually grow strong enough to trigger another reset. The cycle repeats endlessly." "You think humans will eventually do the same thing the Council did?" "I think it is inevitable," said Taemin, "unless you find a way to break the cycle." That evening, Jae-hyun called a meeting with the cooperative's senior leadership. She shared what Taemin had told her and the historical records he had provided. "So we are just going to become the next council?" asked Director Min-ji. "Build up power for a few thousand years, then have some new species overthrow us?" "Not, if we plan for it," said Jae-hyun. "Look at what the records tell us. Every previous civilization made the same mistake. They assumed they would stay young and innovative forever." "What do you suggest?" asked another director. "We build systems that do not depend on us staying in charge," said Jae-hyun. "We prepare other species to take over when we become too old and set in our ways." "That could take thousands of years," pointed out Min-ji. "Then we start now," said Jae-hyun. The next few years saw major changes in how the cooperative operated. Humans began stepping back from leadership roles, training other species to take their places. The cooperative's constitution was rewritten to prevent any single species from gaining too much control. Most importantly, they established the succession protocols. "Every species gets old eventually," Jae-hyun explained to a gathering of young aliens from across the galaxy. "Every civilization becomes comfortable with its power and afraid of change. When that happens to humans, we want you to be ready to take over." "You want us to overthrow you?" asked a young representative from the Tiger Clan worlds. "We want you to replace us," corrected Jae-hyun. "Peacefully, when the time comes." It was a radical idea. No civilization in galactic history had ever willingly given up power. But humans had learned something important from their exile. Growth required change, and change was impossible when old leaders refused to step aside. Meanwhile, deep in the space between galaxies, ancient watchers observed these developments with interest. The precursors had not disappeared. They had simply learned when to step back. "The young ones are learning," said Elder Kyung-ho, as he watched the human broadcasts from their hidden observation station. Like all precursors, he looked almost human, but his eyes held the wisdom of millions of years. This group shows promise, agreed Elder Sujin. They are the first to recognize the cycle before it trapped them. Should we make contact? Asked a younger precursor. Not yet, said Kyung-ho. They need to prove they can break the cycle on their own. If we interfere, they will become dependent on our guidance instead of developing their own wisdom. What? If they fail? Then they will join the cycle like all the others, said Sujin sadly. And we will wait for the next young species to try again. But the precursors were cautiously optimistic. The humans had done something none of the previous civilizations had managed. They had recognized the danger of their own success. Back on New Geneva Station, Jae-hyun stood in her old observation deck. She was older now, with gray streaks in her dark hair. Soon, she would step down as director and let someone from a younger generation take over. The station bustled with activity. Ships from hundreds of species came and went. The cooperative had grown beyond anything the old council had achieved. Member worlds spanned 17 galaxies, connected by a hyperspace network that grew stronger every year. But the real success was not in the size of their civilization. It was in the plans they were making for its future. Ma'am, said her aide, a young human named Dong-woo, the succession committee has finished their latest report. What do they recommend? Asked Jae-hyun. They think humans should begin stepping back from primary leadership roles within the next 50 years. The Tiger clans and the hegemony have both produced excellent candidates for senior positions. Jae-hyun smiled. It was working. The galaxy was learning to govern itself without depending on any single species to stay in charge forever. Any word from the exploration fleets? She asked. The Andromeda mission reports contact with 3 new civilizations, all peaceful so far, and the deep space probes have detected what might be artificial signals from the Magellanic Clouds. More. Young species ready to join the galactic community, said Jae-hyun. Should we make contact? Eventually. But let's make sure we are ready to welcome them as equals, not subjects. As the years passed, the cooperative continued to evolve. New species joined regularly. Older species gradually took on greater responsibilities. Humans remained important members of the community, but they were no longer the dominant force. And when young species asked difficult questions or proposed radical changes, the older species listened instead of trying to silence them. The cycle had been broken. 50 years after the Great Collapse, Ambassador So-young stood in the same observation deck where Jae-hyun had once worked. So-young was fully grown now, with children of her own serving in the cooperative fleet. Through the windows, she watched a remarkable sight, a ship from the Magellanic Clouds docking at the station. The new arrivals were young, curious, and full of ideas that challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about physics. Director, said So-young's aide, the newcomers are requesting permission to modify our hyperspace network. They say they can make it more efficient. Did our engineers approve their proposal? They said it is impossible. But then, we used to think traveling between galaxies was impossible too. So-young laughed. Schedule a meeting with them. Let's see what they have to teach us. It was the kind of response that would have terrified the old council. New species with new ideas were not threats to be contained. They were opportunities to learn and grow. Ma'am, added her aide, we also received a message from the Deep Space Monitoring Station. They detected signals from another galaxy cluster. Artificial signals. More young civilizations? It looks that way. Should we prepare a welcome committee? Always, said So-young. The galaxy has room for everyone who wants to build instead of conquer. As she spoke, monitoring stations across the cooperative detected a faint signal from the empty space between galaxy clusters. It was not from a young civilization seeking contact. It was from the precursors. The message was simple. Well done. Welcome to the next level. But the humans and their allies were too busy building the future to notice the message from the past. And perhaps that was exactly as it should be. In the deepest archives of New Geneva Station, preserved in a crystal that would last until the heat death of the universe, was Jiwoo's final message, the one she had never sent to the council all those years ago. Humanity did not come to the galaxy to rule it, the message said. We came